Have you ever caught a whiff of a specific perfume? Or heard three notes of an old song and suddenly felt like you were 10 years old again? It is a physical sensation, a tight pull in your chest that feels like a mix of extreme happiness and a strange, quiet sadness. For a long time, doctors actually thought nostalgia was a disease. In the 17th century, Swiss physicians believed it was a physical affliction caused by inner vibrations of animal spirits in the brain. They thought it was a form of melancholy that could actually kill you. They treated it with leeches, opium, and sometimes by sending patients back to their home villages to cure the longing. But today, we know that nostalgia is not a sickness. It is actually one of our brain's most sophisticated survival mechanisms. Today, we are going to explore why your mind is constantly trying to edit your past to make it look like a golden age, and why we are more obsessed with the good old days now than ever before. To understand why we feel this way, we first have to look at how our memory actually works. Most of us think of our memory like a video camera, recording events exactly as they happened. But psychology tells us that memory is much more like a storyteller. Every time you remember a moment from your childhood, you aren't playing a file, you are rebuilding it from scratch. And your brain has a very specific filter called the fading affect bias. This is a psychological phenomenon where the negative emotions associated with a memory fade away much faster than the positive ones. This is why you remember the magic of a childhood summer vacation, but you completely forget the 8-hour car ride where you were carsick and fighting with your siblings. Your brain is literally photoshopping your life in real time to help you maintain a positive sense of self. This leads us to a fascinating concept called the Reminiscence Bump. If you sit down with an 80-year-old and ask them to tell you the most important stories of their life, they won't give equal weight to every decade. They won't spend much time on their 40s or 50s. Instead, they will almost always focus on the ages between 15 and 25. This is the period of life where our identity is formed. Everything is a first. Your first love, your first car, your first taste of true independence. During these years, your brain is in a state of high plasticity, and it hardwires these memories with an intensity that never happens again. This is why the music you loved in high school will likely be your favorite music for the rest of your life. Your brain isn't just remembering the song, it is remembering the version of you that heard it for the first time. But there is a deeper reason why nostalgia goes viral every few years, and it's tied to how we handle stress. Nostalgia usually surges during times of great uncertainty, when the present feels chaotic or the future feels scary. Your brain reaches backward for a narrative anchor. Nostalgia provides a sense of continuity. It reminds you who you were before life got complicated. This is why we see massive surges in vintage fashion, retro gaming, and movie reboots during economic shifts or global crises. We aren't just buying a pair of old-school sneakers or watching a remake of a 90s cartoon. We are trying to buy back the feeling of safety we had when we first encountered those things. This brings us to the Golden Age Fallacy. This is the trap of believing that a different time period was inherently better, simpler, or more authentic than the one we are living in now. It's a trick of the mind. In the 1920s, people were nostalgic for the Victorian era. In the Victorian era, people were nostalgic for the Middle Ages. We are perpetually looking over our shoulders because the past has one thing the present doesn't. It is certain. We know how the story ended. The good old days are a psychological mirage that stays exactly 20 years behind us, no matter how fast we run. Interestingly, there is a new phenomenon called Anemoia. This is the feeling of nostalgia for a time period you never actually lived through. Have you ever seen a teenager wearing a Nirvana shirt and talking about how they wish they could have lived in the 90s, even though they weren't even born yet? This happens because we consume the curated memories of others. We see the best parts of the past through movies and photos, but we don't feel the boredom, the dental pain, or the social restrictions of those eras. We fall in love with a version of history that never actually existed. Now, we have to look at how businesses use this against us. This is called nostalgia marketing. Corporations know that if they can link a product to a positive memory from your childhood, they can bypass your logical brain. When you see a commercial that uses a song from your youth, your brain releases a hit of dopamine before you even realize what they are selling. It's a powerful shortcut to trust. By making you feel like a kid again, they make you feel safe. And safe people are much more likely to spend money. But nostalgia isn't all manipulation and memory tricks. There is a very healthy way to use it. Psychologists have found that social nostalgia, remembering experiences you had with loved ones, can actually boost your immune system and lower your cortisol levels. It acts as a buffer against loneliness. When we feel disconnected from the modern world, looking back at our connections helps us feel like we belong. It's like a mental comfort food that helps us get through the cold patches of life. However, there is a dark side called restorative nostalgia. This is when we stop just visiting the past and start trying to rebuild it. This can lead to a rejection of the present and a bitterness toward change. If you find yourself constantly saying that everything used to be better, you might be trapped in a loop that prevents you from finding happiness in the here and now. The key is to practice reflective nostalgia. This is where you enjoy the memory, you appreciate the feeling, but you recognize that the past was just as messy and complicated as the present is today. To truly understand why we look back on our lives the way we do, we have to talk about one of the most famous discoveries in behavioral psychology. It is called the peak end rule, and it was popularized by the Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman. This rule explains that our brains are incredibly lazy when it comes to remembering the past. We do not take the average of an entire experience. If you go on a 10-day vacation, your brain does not remember the average of all 10 days. Instead, it only remembers 2 specific things: the most intense emotional point, the peak, and how the experience ended. This is why you can have a vacation where it rained for 8 days, you lost your luggage, and you got a cold. But if on the 9th day, you saw a breathtaking sunset, and on the 10th day, you had a perfect flight home, you will remember that trip as a good trip. Your brain essentially throws away the middle bits. It discards the hours of boredom and the minor inconveniences. It only keeps the highlights and the closing credits. This is a massive glitch in our psychology that you can actually use to your advantage. If you want to create a golden memory for yourself or someone else, you don't need the entire day to be perfect. You just need one peak moment of high intensity and a very positive ending. This is why high-end restaurants give you a free small chocolate or a beautiful handwritten note with a check. They know that the end of the meal is the most important part of your memory. They want the last thing you feel to be a sense of being special and cared for, because that is the version of the story you will tell your friends tomorrow. Now, let's talk about the biological why. Why does our brain do this? It comes down to 2 parts of your brain working together: the amygdala and the hippocampus. The amygdala is your emotional smoke detector. When something really exciting or really scary happens, the amygdala fires up and essentially tells the hippocampus, which is your memory center, "Hey, pay attention. This part is important. Save this file in high definition." The mundane parts of your life, like sitting in traffic or doing laundry, don't trigger the amygdala. So, the hippocampus only saves a low-resolution version of those moments, or it deletes them entirely to save space. This is why, when you look back at your life, it feels like a highlight reel rather than a raw security camera feed. You are living in a curated version of your own history. But there is a trap here. Because we only remember the peaks and the ends, we often make very bad decisions about our future. This is what psychologists call the duration neglect. We will often choose a shorter, more painful experience over a longer, slightly less painful one, simply because the shorter one had a better ending. We are emotional accountants, and our math is often completely wrong. As we wrap up this 30-minute journey into the past, I want you to think about your own Reminiscence Bump. Think about those years when everything felt new and vibrant. You aren't just missing the music or the clothes of that era. You are missing the version of yourself that was constantly experiencing peaks. But the good news is that you aren't a finished product. Nostalgia is a beautiful place to visit, but it's a terrible place to live. By understanding the peak-end rule and the fading affect bias, you can start to see through the Golden Age Fallacy. You can recognize that your brain is a storyteller that likes to skip the boring chapters. You can start to intentionally create peaks in your life today. Small moments of intensity and better endings to your days. Knowing that these are the things you will look back on 10 years from now with that same beautiful, painful longing. The past wasn't perfect, and the present isn't as bad as it feels. Your brain is just doing its job, trying to keep you safe and trying to keep you, you. So, the next time you feel that pull of nostalgia, don't just sink into the sadness of what is gone. Smile at the fact that your brain loved you enough to save the best parts and let the rest fade away. Look at your life today. What is one new thing you can do this week that will force your brain to stop the compression and start a high-definition recording again? Because the good old days aren't a time period. They are a state of mind where everything was still a discovery.